Hey there, and welcome back once again into this Guitar Modes Explained series that we're doing. This is part 3. If you missed part 2, especially, I'll make sure that I link it somewhere up there because you definitely need to check that out. And, but part 1, probably critical too, probably, since we're already 3 parts in. In part 1, we went over the core 1, Ionian, which is the same as our pattern that we know as the major scale, but we're focused on modes, and we're trying to understand what is the difference between a mode and a scale. In part 2, the most recent one, we focused on Dorian, the Dorian mode. So we started working into Ionian and then Dorian, and today we do a really fun one that gets used a lot and I really enjoy, Phrygian. So if you're ready to do some Phrygian playing, stick around, let's do it. Hey, as always, thanks so much for being here. I appreciate you. And since this is a series, if you want to see all of this series as I keep releasing each video, make sure that you click the like button, the subscribe, and the alert button so you're alerted of, well, the next video. So we've been focusing heavily on learning all of our mode patterns and what they mean to be modes rather than scales, all starting on the note G, the low G, the 3rd fret of our low E string. And today will be no different, but first let's review what we did in the last video. Let's have a quick reminder of what Dorian looked like, our G Dorian. If you recall, G Dorian started, what do you know, on G, the 3rd fret of our low E string, and we went 3, 5, 6. On the A, we went 3, 5, 7. Same frets on the D, 3, 5, 7. Same on the G, 3, 5, 7. On the B, we went 5, 6, 8. And on our high E, 5, 6, 8. Well, today we focus on one that's really familiar. And something I really like to use a lot in my playing. We talk about Phrygian, the 3rd mode. Now, in order to really understand what's going on here, we're going to do what typically we all do. We're going to compare the notes of Phrygian to the major scale or our Ionian mode, the 1st mode. So in other words, you can think of the Ionian mode, our first one, as our control. It's what we base everything off of when I'm explaining how to play the other modes. And if we remember our G Ionian, our first one, it's the one that starts on the 3rd fret of our low E and just goes 3, 5, 7, 3, 5, 7, 4, 5, and we keep going. But let's assign numbers. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So when we compare things, I'm going to be saying, well, it's a flat this, a sharp this. Remember that flat just means 1 fret down toward the headstock of the guitar. And sharp, if I ever mention sharps, which I won't be in this case, they are 1 fret toward the body of the guitar up. So in comparison to that bass core control, our Ionian mode, what does Phrygian look like? The first thing you'll notice right off the bat is a flat 2nd. So instead of going 3, 5, we're going to go 3, 4. And then immediately after that, the 3rd is also going to be flat in comparison to our Ionian mode. So instead of being on the 7th fret, it will be on the 6th fret. The next change you'll see is a flat 6. So instead of being on the 7th fret on our A string, it's going to be the 6th fret. And then lastly, a flat 7. And that's just 1 octave, and we'll expand with the actual pattern as well. But let's learn G Phrygian together. G Phrygian starts on that 3rd fret of your low E, and it simply starts with a 3, 4, 6. On the A string, we will then go 3, 5, 6. And on the D, 3, 5, 6. On the G, we will go 3, 5, 7. On the B, we go 4, 6, 8. And on the high E, the same, 4, 6, 8. And for those of you who really like visuals, I'll make sure that I put a screenshot, a still image of the actual pattern up right now. Feel free to pause, screenshot, either practice it, whatever you need to do to really let it cook in and memorize this pattern of G Phrygian. Now, again, I really don't think you start to understand or comprehend the difference between scales and modes until you start to hear it based on and around a resolving tone or a tonal center that makes it sound modal. So in other words, you probably already noticed that these shapes and patterns are very similar, as in they're the same as patterns or positions, I should say, of our major scale. In other words, if I start Ionian on the 3rd fret, that's the first position of G major. If I start Dorian on the 5th fret, 2nd position of G major. If I start Phrygian on the 7th fret, 3rd position of G major, and so on. And this is where a lot of us get confused when it comes to scales versus modes, because if I'm playing an A Dorian over something that's surrounding all of the chords I know and love in G major, I'm not playing a mode. I'm just playing the 2nd position of G major. But if I were to drag that down and start my Phrygian here on the 3rd fret of the low E and have a G note as my tonal center, that's when we start hearing tones and modal sounds related to G Phrygian instead of it being another position of the major scale. But you'll be happy to know they also connect in the same way that your positions of the major scale do, and we'll get there in a second. But first, let's hear G Phrygian with a G drone track in the background so that you can hear how those subtle changes in all those flat notes, how those impact the sound of G, that resolving tone. But again, like I said, we can start connecting the dots here a bit in the same way that we would our positions of our major scale. So what I want you to do, or at least listen to it first, is to start your Dorian, right, our 2nd mode, on the 1st fret of your low E. And then I want you to move into the 3rd fret being G Phrygian, all while you're hearing just this drone tone of G play out. It'll help you understand that you're still playing all the same notes that you were here, just in a lower position. So hopefully you could start to really hear the difference in tone and pitch, feeling, emotion, color that modes start to present versus scales. And in order to continue this, make sure you click like, subscribe, and the alert button so you see the next one that comes out when we start talking about the Lydian mode. That's right, we'll have already done Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, and then we're on to Lydian. The names are crazy. Don't let them scare you. For this week, I want you to practice exactly what we did in the last video, at least 2 variations. I really want you to let the Phrygian pattern, and you could start it on G, cook in. I really want you to cook that in. So going up and down, keeping it clean and even, making sure you're hitting all the right notes. And then once you feel prepared, start to connect Dorian on that 1st fret into Phrygian on the 3rd fret as well. Until then, have an incredible week, my friend. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate you, and I can't wait to see you in the next video all about Lydian.